Hi there, Crafty Peeps. Enis here from Papercrafting with Enis, and I'm on today to do a quick demonstration on how to use the We Are Memory Keepers envelope punch board. I don't know if you can see that there. But anyway, for a lot of the cards that I make, I typically will do my own envelopes if I want it in a certain color, or I want to have a flap with my decorative paper on it. And so I had picked one of these up a few years ago, and I love using it. It is super easy. So let's get into a quick demonstration. So first I'm going to show you the tools that I'll be using today. Besides the board here, I'm using double-sided tape runner. And of course you can use wet glue or score tape or whatever you want, adhesive. I'm using a scoring tool. I'm using my bone folder, a pencil, and a pair of scissors. So let me give you a quick overview of the punch board. So you will see here there is a ruler with a lip on it, and this portion is what you're going to use for making your first score line. Okay, and I'll talk about that in a minute. This is your punch button, and this is the guide to help you know where to score or to line up the score. And by the way, this punch button punches in the front as well as in the back here. I'll just give you a quick peek. So there's one punch and there's the other punch, and we'll be using both of those today. You'll see this punch board also comes with its own scoring tool, but I don't care for that one. I like the one I use, so I'm just going to keep that and use it. It does have instructions on here, and you're going to see there are 3 columns. The first one is your card size, the next one is your paper size, the last one is your score line. So what this means is you're going to measure your card across the top and down the side and figure out what size it is. Then you're going to look down the card size column and you're going to find the size that closely matches your card. Now, if your card is a little bit smaller than the standard, you're going to want to go one size larger. Otherwise, your envelope won't fit in the card. And here comes our fuzzy little friend. Okay, goodbye, Kiki. Okay. Give me a second. I'm going to have to open the window for him. He's a little bit mad at me today because I put flea and tick medicine on him. And tomorrow he has a vet appointment, but don't tell him I said that. Okay? Okay, so anyway, you're going to find your card size on here, and once you determine which size, then you're going to look at the next column, which is your paper size. And that is the size that you're going to cut your paper for your envelope. Okay? And then the last column here says score line, and what that matches up to is this ruler here. Okay, so it just so happens that I'm going to be making an A2 card size envelope, which is 4 1/4 by 8 1/2. So if you look on the punch board here, you will see right here it says 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 A2 size, and it's telling me I need a piece of paper 8 1/8 by 8 1/8, and I'm going to start my first score line at 3 3/4. Okay, so I have already cut my paper, and let me move my cat off my paper, please. Come on, Kiki. All right. So this is 8 1/8 by 8 1/8, and it says I need to line up at the 3 3/4 mark. So I'm going to push my paper up against that guide, and I'm going to slide it down to 3 3/4. And I'm going to give you a close-up there. You see that? 3 3/4. And that's where my paper starts. All right? So then you're going to push down on the punch, and that's going to put a little notch in your envelope. And then you're going to go to this little groove here, and you're going to score your paper all the way up to the punch. Okay, so that's your first score line and your first punch. Then you're going to turn a 1/4 of a turn, and this time, instead of lining up along here, our instructions tell us to line up along the score line with the score guide. See that little line, or that little piece right there? And there is my score line. Okay, so those two should be lined up closely. You're going to punch down, and once again you're going to come over here to this groove, and you're going to put another score mark there. Then we turn it again, and we do the same thing. We're going to line up the guide with the score line. All right, punch down, do your score line, turn it one more time, line that up. Now, this is the last side, and I just want to give you a tip here. Okay, so the rule is you're supposed to line this score line up with the guide. But I find that if you line it up, and right here I want you to see this, if this groove does not match up right next to this punch out right here, your envelope's not going to look right. So what I do is I'll actually scooch it over a tiny bit so that they're almost touching. Okay, and then I will make my line and my punch. Now I know that means this isn't lined up here, but our envelope is going to fold better, I promise you. Now the next step is optional, but if you want pointed corners on your envelopes, you are done with this part. But if you want rounded corners, you're going to use this back punch. So what you'll do is you'll just see this little groove here. You're just going to slide your envelope tip in there and punch down. And then you have your rounded corner. Okay. Sometimes I don't get this in here just right and I have to punch more than once, but it always works out. Okay, so I have all of my corners punched. I don't need this anymore, so I'm going to set that aside and just get rid of my scraps. And when I fold my papers that I've scored, I like to fold on the mountain side. I think it makes your lines a lot more crisper, and your paper is actually, the fibers are actually broken there already, so it just really makes a nicer fold if you ask me. So we're going to fold up every one of our flaps and give them a good score press. Okay. All right. Pretty easy, right? And then you're going to take your adhesive, whether it's wet glue, score tape, tape runner, whatever, and you're just going to run a line of glue along these two flaps. And you're going to bring this up, and voila, your envelope is finished. Now, sometimes I like to have a fancy decorative paper on the top here so that my envelope matches my card. So what I do there is I take my design paper, and this actually is a printable from Polly's Paper Studio on Etsy, and I have had this collection for quite some time now, and I love using it. Now I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to trim this white off the bottom here because that's going to interfere with what I'm doing. So give me just a second. Okay, so here we are, and here is Kiki again. He's really something. All right, so what you're going to do, and I kind of like to have at least one rose on there. So I'm just moving this so that I can get a rose in there. I'm going to lay my envelope on that paper, and I'm lining the edge of the paper up with this score line at the top of the envelope. Okay, that's where it folds over. I'm lining it up there, and then I'm just going to trace around. And that's going to give me the shape that I need for my flap. Okay, so you can see my pencil line there. Now I'm going to trim around this here, and I'm actually going to trim on the inside of the line about 1/8 of an inch inside. And that way it's going to give me a little bit of my pink or my blush paper showing around the edge. So let me just trim that up. And honestly, you don't have to be perfect with this, but you should at least trim neatly and the best you can. Okay. All right. So there it is. Now you have another option here. You can line this up right at the top of the fold on your envelope like this, or you can trim a little bit off. Now I like to trim a little bit off the bottom of this decorative paper because I like to see that pink showing through. So let me just grab my paper trimmer here, and I'm eyeballing this about 1/8 of an inch. There you go. And I'm just going to add some glue on here. I know this glue runner is getting kind of low. I hope I have enough here. Again, you can use your wet glue, or you don't have to do this at all, but I'd like to. So, and by the way, my rose looks like it's upside down, but remember the flap is going to go like this, so it's going to look pretty good. So this you're just going to line up with about 1/8 of an inch going all the way around. And stick it down. So there you have it. There is my matching envelope to go with my card. Super easy, right? And like I said, you have some options here. You don't have to put this flap on. You don't have to trim this little bit here. You don't have to round off the corners there. You could also, if you wanted to, cut a piece of the paper and put it inside of the envelope, which I'm not going to do today, but it would be the same concept. You're just basically, you're going to line it up, trace around, and then you're going to trim inside about 1/8 of an inch. Okay? And then glue it in. That's it. So, lovely envelope, right? I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope to do some more tutorials similar to this one. If you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the comments down below. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. See you later, Crafty Peeps. Bye.